everyone. So happy to have you guys with me today. I hope you enjoyed the edit. So this is part of a project I'm doing, just trying to explore what's around my home. So I live in Paris and I had to cut my travel short and come back to Paris. And so I've really been missing this natural element. So my mom and I decided to go once a week and explore a forest that's around Paris because they have been reopened to the public. So yeah, we've been venturing out more, and so I decided to shoot this edit with nothing in mind. I just got inspired by the space that was around me, and I thought I'll just create a little video and give some advice on how to make your footage more cinematic. What makes this footage cinematic? I guess it is a subjective notion, but there are some things that you can do to help get that feel of cinema in your edits. So yeah, let's get to it. Simple tips, 5 of them. They really will change the way you edit, and they're so important in my work. So and the first one is camera movement, and I cannot stress that enough. If you look at really good movies, the camera is actually becoming the eye of the audience. So you're allowing your audience to see through your eyes. And you know, when you're standing in a chair and observing a landscape, or if you're just walking around and observing things, your eyes are moving and are exploring different things. You want the camera to do the same thing. You want it to be an object of exploration, and motion can sometimes even convey emotion. Let's say there's this scene and there's this woman who's really sad, I guess. She's really sad. I don't know why I thought of that, but she's really sad. And the camera is slowly zooming into that woman, and you have this sort of tension that's building up, and the zoom is so efficient to convey that. You don't have to physically zoom to have motion in your shots. You have to remember that when you're filming, you also have a body, and you can use that body to take your camera and sort of pan it across the horizon, go in, go out. And with these motions, you are going to have so much more fluidity in your editing room, because you're going to have all these motions that can sort of respond to one another. So you kind of want to find your signature moves of sorts. So you can sort of move in, move out of the subject, do a pan, come back around, go back and explore. I really like having that moving camera because it gives you so much freedom in the editing room. So definitely consider adding motion in your shots. I think it's so important. Number 2 is sound design, and that's something that I will say I discovered quite late in my career, and I'm very sad I did. Well, I guess I'm happy I did notice it eventually. Let's just put it that way. And it's such a powerful tool. So we're gonna watch this clip without any sound, and then I'm gonna show you the clip again with some sound, and you're gonna feel that there's a change of emotion. It just gives a whole nother tint to the footage. So let's just watch a couple seconds. You see what I mean? It's just that a footage without sound or just music feels flat, you know? Our world is a 3D world. We hear, we smell, we see, we touch. When you're filming something, you cannot convey all these senses, but you have to remember that you can convey the sense of hearing. That's easy. You can just add in noises. And it's really important to think that this is possible at any time of the process. So you could be recording wild sound, as we call them. So on location, you're just taking, you're taking your iPhone and recording the sound just like that, and you have a wild sound. But you can also add it post-production, and this is what I did with all the footage that you're seeing here. Just because I didn't have the right equipment, and I didn't want to be bogged down. I was just having a nice walk with my mom, so there's no point in getting crazy with the equipment. So I added all the sound post-production, and so I would see the scene and I would think what would fit well here. So for example, there's a motion at one point, and I added a sort of a swoosh sound, which is here. And so that swoosh sound really adds another layer, and they're really easy to find. You can subscribe to any platform that has royalty-free music, and usually they have what they call SFX. That means a sound and effects, essentially, and they have really, really good library. I personally use Epidemic Sound. I think it's freaking awesome. I've always found all the sounds that I needed. So at one point there's a meadow. I think I added an empty church ambience. They also have that on there. So awesome. Just make use of the resources we have as creators now, and especially pay attention to sound. It can really take your work to a whole nother level. I know you're probably a visual person. If you're like me, I'm very visual, and I have trouble with rhythm and sound generally, but just putting the extra effort really takes your work to just another place. So yeah, consider sound. So number 3 is really easy, straightforward, can just it just adds an effect of cool and cinema. It's kind of like cheating, but it's not really, because everyone's doing it. So it's crop bars. So just adding the crop bars at the top and the bottom of your screen just automatically makes people think movie, makes people think high quality, makes people think good production. And it's all in the mind. It really is a ratio thing. It's all in the mind, but it does sort of give a more cinema feel to your footage. So why not add them if it looks good? And so the idea of it is just to sort of replicate the way we actually see in the world. So we have a very a very long horizontal vision, but not very much in the vertical. So it's sort of replicating the human eye. That's why you have all these different formats. But yeah, so adding crop bars, really easy. You can just download them for free online. Just tap free crop bars on Google and you'll find some files for sure. All right, moving on to number 4. Number 4 is one of the hardest ones of all the numbers, and that's stable footage. Oh my God, I struggle so much with making stable images. I have a gimbal. I'm learning how to use it. I'm not so good at it. I'm also very much of a person that gets inspired by their environment. So sometimes I just won't know I'm going to be shooting that day, so I don't bring the gimbal. I just have my camera and I want to shoot. Anyways, I'm just not good at having a lot of equipment. It just doesn't work with my flow. So I've been trying to get stable footage without a gimbal. So how can I do that? There's a couple ways to do it. So we'll go through them step by step. Number 1 way is the way you hold the camera, just simply as that. So if you have a strappy thing, which I recommend, those straps that go around your shoulder, you can hold the camera in the strap. So you're holding the camera here, you have the strap around your back, and what you want to do is really hold it as far as it go on the strip, so you're having just a little more tension, which allows you to be more stable. You can also do that with a tripod which has 3 legs, and so you pull out the 3 legs and you sort of set them between your hips like this, and you're holding it like this. So there's ways to make your camera more stable than just freehand like this with the dangling wrap thing. That just doesn't work, trust me. So yeah, trying to find tension or find a wall to recline on. And so once you've mastered that, sort of getting the footage as stable as it can in camera, what you want to do is use post-production tricks to make it even smoother. So if you're using Premiere, what I use is the stabilize tool. I basically put it on all my shots unless I am intentionally having motion in them, and then I won't tweak them. But what's important to do is not to crank it up too high. So I'll show you what I do in a screen grab right now, and that's worked for me really well, and it's still subtle and it doesn't feel like it's over processed. So yeah, that's the way to get more stable footage, both in camera and both post-production. So let's move on to number 5. Shoot different angles. That sort of goes the same way as the first tip, which is camera movement, but you want to have different angles of one object. So you want to be able to play with that in post-production and be able to have different cuts. If you just have one scene of one thing, then that's all you have. and that's all you've captured. So you're really limited by that. So what I try and do when I go shoot is shoot much more than I'm actually going to use. That edit that you saw, that 1 minute edit is maybe, 40 minutes of shooting, just because the rest wasn't good. You won't see it, but it just wasn't good. So I didn't include it. But I had the freedom to really push my work in the editing room because I had shot different angles. For example, that scene. That's 3 different angles of the same object. And so that allows me to make these cuts that I wouldn't have allowed myself to do if I just had, this thing. So I'll give you an example. If I have this hat right there, my hat, anyways, if I have this hat and I'm filming it, maybe I want to film it this way first. And so I film it and I notice, oh no, it's not so good as backlit. So let's move into having it from this angle. And I think, oh yeah, that's the one. That's the one I really like. I love it. Still, what I'll usually do is find another angle, something a little more thought about. Like I'll be like, oh, I'll just go lower and shoot it from upside down. And usually that's sort of surprising. So it's always going sort of the extra step, even when you think you have the shot. So yeah, that sort of concludes it. How to have more cinematic footage in 5 tips, what I use in my job, my everyday life, and when I create. So yeah, I hope this was helpful to you. Definitely leave a comment if you like my content, and I'll make some more. Subscribe if you like what I do, and thank you so much for taking the time to watch this.